Hey everyone! So, today we're going to tackle a huge topic in the tech world, Kubernetes. I mean, you hear this name thrown around all the time, right? But what does it actually do? Well, in a nutshell, it's all about bringing order to the chaos of modern software. So, let's just dive right in.
Okay, so to really get Kubernetes, you first have to understand the problem it was built to solve. See, modern apps, they aren't just one big piece of code anymore. Nope, they're broken up into dozens, sometimes hundreds, or even thousands of tiny little services. And each one runs in its own little self-contained box, which we call a container. So here's the question. What do you think happens when you're trying to juggle all of those at the same time?
Well, it gets chaotic, and I mean fast. Some of those containers, they're going to crash. It's just inevitable. Others are going to suddenly demand way more power. And then, a marketing campaign goes viral, and you've got to scale up instantly to handle all that new traffic. But then you have to scale back down later so you're not burning money. Trying to manage all of that by hand, it's not just tough, it's pretty much impossible.
And that right there, that is the core issue. We call it the container chaos problem. It's this total management nightmare that comes directly from the way we build software now. And this chaos, this is exactly what Kubernetes was invented to solve.
Okay, so how do we fix this? The best way to wrap your head around Kubernetes isn't to get bogged down in a ton of technical jargon. It's actually a really simple but powerful analogy. So let's just imagine for a second that your entire application is like a huge, bustling company. All right, first up, the containers. Just think of these as all of your individual workers, your employees. Each worker has one very specific job. You've got one guy who just handles user logins. You've got another person who only processes payments. Another one just sends out emails. They're the ones on the ground doing the actual work of your application.
So where do all these workers, do their jobs? Well, they work on the office floors. And these floors, those are your servers. They're the physical or virtual machines that give the workers everything they need. The space, the desks, the power, the whole setup they need to operate.
And this is where it all clicks into place. Kubernetes is the operations manager. Think of it as this brilliant, tireless manager who's watching over all the workers on all the office floors. Now, the manager doesn't do the actual work, right? No, but it makes all the critical decisions: who works where, when we need to bring in more help, and exactly what to do if a worker suddenly calls in sick.
So, here's the crucial takeaway. If you need a simple, one-sentence definition, this is it. Kubernetes is a system that automatically runs, scales, fixes, and connects all your containers. It's really about letting go of manual control to gain total automated control.
Okay, so what are the actual day-to-day jobs that this manager takes off your plate? Like, what does Kubernetes really do for you automatically?
First, and this might be the most important one, automatic self-healing. So picture this: one of your worker containers just crashes. Poof, it's gone. Without Kubernetes, some poor engineer gets that dreaded, frantic page at 3 in the morning. But with Kubernetes, the system just notices the worker is down and bam, it instantly replaces it with a new, healthy one. No human has to do anything. No late-night panic. The app just keeps on running.
Next up is scaling on demand. Let's say on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, you only need maybe 3 containers to handle 1,000 users. No big deal. But then, Black Friday hits. 1 million users are flooding your site. The manager sees this massive rush coming and automatically scales you up to, say, 300 containers to handle the load. And then, just as important, when the rush is over, it scales you right back down.
I mean, seriously, just think about that for a second. Can you imagine having to sit there, watching traffic monitors, and manually adding or removing hundreds of containers in real time? Would you want that job? Kubernetes just does it without even breaking a sweat. Oh, and the superpowers do not stop there. It also acts like a traffic cop, making sure all the work is spread out evenly so no single container gets overloaded. It can roll out new updates with literally 0 downtime for your users. And hey, if that new update has a bug, it can instantly roll back to the old version that worked. On top of all that, it's super efficient, packing your containers together tightly to make sure you're not wasting money on server space you don't need.
Okay, so now you get the big picture, the why. Let's do a quick run-through of the 4 essential terms you're going to hear all the time when people talk about Kubernetes. And don't worry, this is just the basics, but it's enough to get you in the conversation.
First up, the pod. This is the absolute smallest, most fundamental unit in Kubernetes. The easiest way to think of it is like a little cubicle or a private office. It holds one or more of our workers, the containers, that need to be right next to each other to work together. Next, we have something called a service. Now, remember how pods can crash and get replaced all the time? Well, that means their internal addresses are constantly changing, which is a problem. A service fixes that. It's like giving a whole group of pods one single stable phone number for their department. So it doesn't matter which worker answers the phone, your users can always reach the right place.
Okay, a node. This one's easy. A node is just one of the actual machines in your cluster. Sticking with our analogy, it's one of the office floors where all the pods, our little cubicles, are located.
And finally, you have the cluster. This is the whole shebang, the entire company building. It's the collection of all the nodes, all the office floors, all being managed together by Kubernetes. They all act like one giant logical computer. It's also really important to be clear about what Kubernetes is not. It is not a programming language. It's not a cloud provider like AWS or Azure. Actually, it runs on top of them. It's not a database. And this is a big one. It does not build your app. Its job is to run your app after it's been built.
Okay, so we've got the analogy, we've got the basic terms, but let's bring this back to the real world for a second. Why does this all matter so much? Why is this such a game changer for how companies operate?
Let's just look at a quick before and after. In the old way of doing things, if something broke, a person had to go fix it. If you needed more capacity, a person had to go add it. You were always focused on the health of individual servers. But with Kubernetes, recovery and scaling are automatic. And that lets you shift your thinking. You stop worrying about the machines and start focusing on what really matters, the health of your application.
And that shift translates directly into real business value. This is why companies are using it. It lets them release new features way faster and with more confidence. It means fewer outages, which means happier customers. Scaling becomes predictable instead of a panic. And it gives you cloud portability, which is huge. It means you can run your stuff on any major cloud provider so you don't get locked into a single vendor.
Which brings us to a really powerful final point. When you strip everything else away, Kubernetes isn't really about containers. It's about control. It's about giving your teams control over failure, control over scale, and control over how fast you can change and improve.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. If your application's traffic were to double, literally overnight, would it survive? Or would the whole thing just crumble under the pressure? That's the kind of control Kubernetes gives you. Thanks for tuning in.